Scottish Football Social Club is brought to you by McBookie.com. Take a lookie at McBookie today.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome along to the Scottish Football Social Club on Premier Sports in association with McBookie. It's been a quiet news day. I don't know what we're going to talk about today, but it's good to see Alan and Michael as always. Michael, we'll come to you in a minute because you look as if you're rosy there, maybe slightly tanned. Who knows? But Alan, I am shocked. Where's the 49er stop? Where's the Stars and Stripes? I thought you'd be surrounded.
Come on. I'm not that bad, am I?
You're better than that these days. You've come a long way. You've come a long way. Speaking of going a long way, Michael, where are you?
I'm turning golden brown in Tyrol. Do you know where Tyrol is, Darryl?
I only know because you've told me.
In Kitzbühel in Austria. Yes.
Are you enjoying yourself there? Have there been one or two Aperols today? Are you fresh?
Wunderbar.
The Wi-Fi looks better over there.
He's had to go to Austria to get good Wi-Fi. It's tragic. Absolutely tragic.
That's how short-changed we are in Scotland, Darryl. Yeah.
Oh, let's not get him started.
Hey, listen, don't you go there. No politics in the show tonight. But anyway, delighted to say, most of all, because I don't like talking to just the two of you every Monday night, delighted to say we've got another guest on in the shape of the Hearts boss, head coach Neil Critchley is joining us. Let's bring him on to the show. He thought he was having a quiet night off, but Neil, thank you very much for coming on and joining us tonight.
No problem. Good evening, fellas. You all right?
Okay. We're okay. Obviously, Michael's better than the rest of us where he is.
I was enjoying that, actually. That was good. A bit of banter there. I was enjoying that, yeah.
Good. Listen, really good to speak to you, especially because there's such a big week ahead, but it feels like since you took the job, which is, just under 5 months ago, just about every week's been a big week, right?
Yeah, so much has happened, to be honest with you. It's moved so quick. It's gone fast. But I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Honestly, it's been a fantastic experience, and it's a great club. I love working here in the city at this magnificent football club with the players and the staff. And yeah, so far it's gone okay, but we always want to do better.
We focus so much on the football. Of course we do, Neil. It's a football show. But I mean, how's life? How have you settled into the city, the family, and everything else? Have you adapted well?
First month was in a hotel, and then we found a place to live, which is not too far away from Edinburgh Zoo, which is convenient for the training ground and for the stadium. But then we had a problem with the boiler when we first moved in. That broke, so we had to move back into the hotel. So I was carrying plastic bags around with me for a few weeks. But all
I can get you a plumber if you want, Neil.
We had to get someone out, Michael. We did a good job, to be fair. But all sorted. My family, back at home. So me and the assistant, we're like men behaving, and well, not badly, but we try to behave as best as we can.
Yes. Don't ask Michael for any Edinburgh help, by the way. He takes a cut on everything, Neil. So don't use his workman. Right, Michael, I'll bring you in because I know there's probably loads of questions that you want to ask Neil, and we will look at your match highlights from yesterday. Congratulations, another good victory, by the way. We'll look at the game in just a moment, but Michael, let's bring you in now.
I was just going to ask, first of all, I mean, has anything surprised you since you've joined Hearts at all in terms of the club exclusively or the league as a whole? This season, it's quite a unique season in terms of how tight things are, but is there anything that surprised you more than you were expecting?
The size of the club, Michael, I'll be honest. It's a really big football club, and there's a big expectation at the club, which is great. I'm enjoying it. Knowing like you're going into the games, having that pressure of having to win games is completely different to maybe where you're the underdog or you're not expected to win, or it's different. And again, obviously, you know yourself that there's a class about this football club in the way it conducts itself, and that's with the people behind the scenes, and the supporters are unbelievably passionate, really intense, traveling big numbers away from home, and I have thoroughly enjoyed it so far. It's completely different. Coming up here I wanted to step outside my comfort zone and experience a different football, different culture, and it is different. The games are so competitive, so close, fine margins as the league is this season, and you have to do the basics very well in every single game if you want to get a result.
Yesterday was obviously huge for that exact reason, because if you look at the table, had you not been able to get the 3 points, all of a sudden you're staring at 11th place rather than realistically looking at the top 6, which is, I think you must be feeling a lot more confident about the club being able to get into that top 6 now, because it's been a decent run since the turn of the year.
Yeah, no, it has, and I felt like we could put a run together, but you obviously have to go and do that. You have to go and prove it on the pitch. There were signs early on. There was some improved performances, but there were some indifferent performances as well. I think we've been more consistent recently, and we've been better at both ends of the pitch, which has definitely helped. And yeah, our aim is to finish as in, first of all, get into the top 6. I think there's 6 games before the split, and then we want to finish as high as we can in the league. And we've got a quarter final in the Scottish Cup against Dundee at home, so we want to go as far as we can in that competition as well.
I'll let the guys come in, but just the last thing I wanted to ask, Neil, was how important was January in regards to you getting a little bit of an identity in the team in terms of how you're looking to develop the playing style, but also just bringing in a bit. My personal view is the squad was imbalanced. Did you feel similar, and how important was that January transfer window?
It was, any window's important massively, but the first one as well, and it's been well documented about Jamestown being involved at the football club, and they're part of our recruitment process. And Graham Jones, obviously the sporting director, joined in November just after me, so it was sort of our first window together. I'd like to think we've done some good work. Time will tell, but so far it looks promising. And you always want to try and, like you say, put your own stamp on the squad and try and bring in the players that help you to play the style of football you want to play moving forward. And I would agree with you. I think there was an imbalance in the squad, and we've tried to rectify that, but you're not going to do that all in one window. It's going to take a little bit of time, but so far the signs have been positive with the players that we brought in, I think.
Alan,
Neil, so just recently you've obviously tweaked the formation slightly and changed a few things. Is that us starting to see your style as attacking? You want to create opportunities. Is that how you see your team moving forward?
Yeah, to be honest, Alan, it was when we were playing St Mirren away in the cup. We actually started the game 4-2-3-1, and it was a really difficult pitch on the night. It was hard to play football, and it was a battle. You had to compete, and it was hard for us to get control of the game in the middle of the pitch. So in the end, we thought we'd just go with 2 strikers, and we put Shanks behind, and that gives us a little bit more forward momentum, just because we had an extra body at the top end of the pitch. So then the next week we're playing Rangers, and I'd watched Rangers a lot, and I just thought that might be the way to play against them, to really be aggressive against them, press them. They weren't in a great moment, obviously. Let's try and disrupt their game, and there's a risk to that. But we played well on the day. The result didn't go our way. So the team sort of evolved, and it's the principles of I'd like us to play in being aggressive without the ball, but dominating the ball as well, because we had more of the play, more possession, and against Rangers as well. So I want us to keep the ball, but having the ball where you have the ball is more important than just having the ball. Dangerous possession, not just possession for passing sake. I always want us to attack with and without the ball. It's your principles rather than the formation, because sometimes we will adjust the tactical side of the game depending on who we're playing against.
Neil, what is against Rangers? So many chances it could have gone a different way. Go on, Michael.
Yeah, I was just going to ask in terms of that type of thing, that when you look at the team now, what is it that you're looking to add? When you say obviously January is just one window, but come the summer, what is it you're looking to add to the team, and how is it that Jamestown is going to be involved in that? Explain to us what that whole sort of side of the club is how that functions, and what is it that is going to influence your decision making, and how is it you want it to help you to attract the right player to the team?
Yeah, it's a really good question. You have to have a total alignment, and so they have to know our style of play. Therefore, your style of play then determines the profile of players that you bring into that style. So they have to know what it is that I want, what we're trying to develop. So there's got to be good communication. We've got to be clear. So when they're identifying players, they know exactly what they're looking for, and it's been good for me. It's been good for my learning, because sometimes I will look at certain players and see him being able to do certain. He's got certain attributes, and he'll bring this to the team. But then through their system, they'll be able to say, well, he's not the same as him, or he's slightly different, but here's these types of players, and we then get to watch the players. It's only part of the process. It's not everything. We still have to go away and watch the players, speak to them, do all our due diligence on their character, their background. But obviously it plays an important part of the process.
There's so many layers. There are so many layers to that. Just briefly, Neil, on that. I take it then in the end, it all comes back to you though, because I know in some models, more on the continent, the manager doesn't always get the final say, but for you, it always comes back to you.
Yeah, no, it's a collaborative effort, but I'm obviously a massive part of it, and I probably more to the end of the process, to be honest with you. A lot of work goes on prior to me, but yeah, I'm part of it, and I know you're alluding to. Do I have the final say? And
well, that's always what people ask, isn't it? Because I know it's hard to judge managers sometimes, particularly on the continent, if you find out in the end it's the sporting director that's signing the players and the manager just has to work with them. So I always feel the fans are always interested to know if exactly kind of black and white at the end.
No, yeah, the players who have come to the football club have been a collaborative effort, but I've been happy with all of those players because I've watched them at length, I've spoke to them, and I know how they're going to fit into our team and the way that we want to develop the style moving forward.
Neil, I was just going to ask you about in terms of, and I find it quite interesting because obviously you're a football person like we are, but when you've got that data side of things that's coming to part of the decision making, you were saying there that you might see one player as that type that you're looking for, but the data might show you something different. Has that been quite educational?
Yeah.
In terms of, does it actually open your eyes up to, well, my instinct was thinking this, but it's shown me something else that actually might get a better blend.
100%, and that's why you've got to be open-minded, and you can't have an ego because you can't think that you know best. And it's like, I want to sign him, and that's it. And you just got to be like, as long as you all know that we're here for the greater good of the club, which is trying to help the club to move forward and be successful, then open your mind, open your eyes, and look and see, but also be really clear on who it is you want to try and bring in. So sometimes I'll watch players and I'll just say, it's him. Like he's going to improve us. So that's the player that we want. But they've identified those players for us. So, and me, the staff, we can still recommend players and put it into their model, and they can say yes or no. Or
it always helps anyway when you get guys like Kavango and they start battling in the goals. While we've got you, let's have a look at the highlights, because it was a tight game, wasn't it, on a difficult pitch in Perth, and you probably expected it was going to be tough as soon as you arrived, if not before. But you found a way to get the points, and as we already said, this was huge, wasn't it, for you?
Yeah, it was huge, and that was the message to the players before the game that it was the start of a big week for us, and we knew the game was possibly in doubt before the game because the referee had gone to inspect the pitch, so we knew it was going to be difficult conditions, and we said to the players, look, sometimes it's not going to be pretty.
What a save that was, by the way!
Unbelievable save, a match-winning save that, and we have to find a way to win, and fortunately we did, and that's our third victory against St Johnstone, but they've all been by a 2-1 scoreline, and it just shows you the fine line that Craigie pulls off that save at 1-1, and 2 minutes later we go down the other end and score the winning goal. So it's
That was tight.
It's very tight.
But from a team point of view, though, that was the second goal. I mean, that was like a perfectly worked goal.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what you can see your team developing, and that's what you're trying to do, is pass through the thirds and you get the goal.
Yeah, definitely. Playing that system, Alan, because when you've got Shanks playing behind the two strikers, obviously you're trying to occupy the defensive line, and Shanks is very good at finding space and linking play, and we did that very well, playing through the middle of the pitch, and you're trying to overload the middle of the pitch to gain possession of the ball, but to play forward. And we did that quite well against Rangers, and we did that in sporadic spells yesterday.
Going off on a slight tangent, Neil, is there any hope that Lon Shankland will stay on next season or beyond?
Look, Shanks, I'm going to come up with the old cliches one here, aren't I? Look, Shanks has been a really massive player for this football club. He's really important to what we do and how we want to do, but he's coming to the end of his contract. We shall see. He'll have his own thoughts and his career and what he wants to do, and we'll have ours as a football club. But I know the club spoke to him previously last summer, and they didn't come to an agreement then. He's been fantastic. I've got to say, he's a captain. He leads by his actions. He's not a vocal person, but he trains every single day. And other than a little spell where he was out with a calf injury around Christmas, he's been pretty much every minute of every game. He's always available, and his presence in the dressing room for the team is vitally important.
Yeah. You would want to keep him, would you?
He's just putting you on the spot here. He's just wanting that answer.
Don't answer what you don't. Of course, don't answer what I don't even know if you heard that.
I say, Shanks has scored a lot of goals for this football club, so you'd always want to try and keep a goal scorer. Yeah. It'd be obvious, wouldn't it? Because if he leaves, then you've got to try and replace that, and that would be extremely difficult.
I thought that was an easy question, guys.
Cheers, Michael.
he's killing you here from abroad. Listen.
No,
you never know.
Fine.
With the new money coming into the football club, maybe things have changed since last summer. Anyway, maybe the options are different. And obviously, maybe things have changed for Lawrence Shankland. Then we'll all find out. I'm sure you know more than us. We'll all find out quite soon. But just finally, you must be pleased. We talked about that January transfer window. The squad feels stronger. Players coming off the bench. Guys like Khartoum being introduced. More players that probably are going to get you in the direction you want to be going in. You must feel confident about the future. European places, I know it's still a big ask, and the top six will be what you absolutely need to do at the moment. But you never know, Neil. And the more progress you make going into that next window, do you feel like you'll be in a great place really to add a lot more depth and a lot more top quality players that will take you eventually where you want to go?
Yeah, I'm excited by the future. I am, because I've got a real positive feeling at the football club and what we can possibly achieve. But you know, in this game, you can never take your eye off the here and now. And we've got a really important game against St. Mirren Wednesday night, and football can change very quickly. We're in a really good moment, but equally it can change the other way, as I've experienced before. So to get to the future, you've got to take care of your business right now. And our immediate aim is St. Mirren at home, and we know that's going to be a difficult game off the back of their fantastic victory against Rangers at the weekend. So we just have to be ready for that game.
And then you get
I've got one final question.
I was just going to say, then he gets another taste of the Edinburgh derby, Michael, which you loved. Right, Michael, final one, because we've got to let Neil go. Go on, Michael.
Yeah. Are you a rugby fan, Neil?
Oh, we're not going to talk about England versus Scotland.
Don't. Why have you done that,
Absolutely
Michael?
Cheated.
How have you managed to get this in?
Cheated out of it, did he say?
I mean,
he cheated. That's what he said.
Talk about referees. The referee was an absolute shocker. He was a shocker.
I only saw the end of it because we were travelling to St. Johnstone. I managed to catch the last 20 minutes of it at the hotel, and obviously when they have a kick to win the game, I feared the worst.
Have you seen that the referee moved the ball closer to the side?
No.
Outrageous.
Where it was touchdown for the try was a few yards further.
For the kick? For the final kick?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, no, I haven't seen that, no.
Yeah, the rest got it
that's
wrong.
a classic manager's line.
But listen, let's not get on to referees and VAR. We'll do that after Neil's gone. Before we go on, there'll be a lot more on that later. Listen, Neil, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Problem.
You've been an absolute gentleman since you
Neil.
arrived at the football club. Every time I've spoken to you, an absolute class act. So thank you. Really appreciate it. We'll catch up soon.
Cheers, guys. All the best.
Thank
See you
you.
soon. Thank you.
All the best.
Right, Michael, you had some questions for Neil there. He just wanted his dinner. He just wanted a little bit of time off. Look, loads could change, but just what I said at the end there, Alan, I think he's conducted himself so well. He came in at a hard time for the football club, and there's been a sticky patch in there as well, and the end of the European campaign wasn't ideal, but he seems to kind of hold his nerve a little bit when he's talking about the highs and the lows, and he seems to, as Michael also said, Alan, he's a really good football brain. He knows what he wants.
Yeah, but it was quite interesting to see about the whole signing thing and how it works, because we've spoke about it numerous occasions and we don't actually know what the script is. Does he choose the players or how does it work? But it sounds like they give him options and ultimately he can go and then look at them and he has the final say. So that was really quite interesting. And even though Michael was piling on the pressure, he didn't crumble. You know what I mean? He stuck to his guns. So no, it was good. That was a good chat.
No, listen, Michael, loads of interesting things from that. And I'm sure the Hearts fans tuning in or maybe watching after the show's finished tonight, watching on the repeats, will be really interested to hear what Neil's had to say, because it wasn't necessarily the appointment that lots of the fans would have wanted at the time. And you'd questioned it as well. But you look at the points he's put on the board since he came in now, and I think Hearts would be third in the table. I think I'm right in saying, if it was from the date, 15th of October, that he took the job. Overall, that's a pretty good return, isn't it, when you're learning about a new football club and new players?
Yeah, of course it is. I mean, look, ultimately, you will be judged on the results that you get. And as you've just, pointed out, since he's come in, they would be sitting, far higher up in the table. Look, January was big because, as Neil alluded to, he felt like the squad was imbalanced as well. It was something that I just, was astonished at the start of the season. They've started to try to, rectify that. And it then means that he's got greater options in terms of how he wants to sort of set things up. Summer's another big one. It's another big one. And if he can continue to get results, then it'll start to, turn folk like myself who, look, I've said this like endlessly. He's clearly a really nice guy, Neil. And he's clearly a very, intelligent guy when it comes to football. My only concern is just in terms of that, a bit of a horrible streak, in terms of a strong mentality. But football's an evolving and changing sport. Maybe that isn't as important as it once was. I don't know.
Michael, maybe he's got that, and we just don't see it.
Yeah, exactly.
He approaches these sort of interviews. I'm sure he's got a bit of everything behind the scenes.
Ultimately, Darryl, that all pales in insignificance if you continue to get results. Yeah. If you continue to get results, focus on the positives.
Absolutely, and that's what I was getting at. If
and that's what's happening now.
Absolutely, and if Hearts could get into those European places, that's where I was trying to go at the end there. You'd imagine going into that next summer transfer window then, because he's going to get backing anyway. Yeah. You'd imagine if they're in Europe, that backing would be even stronger, more significant.
They'll definitely need a striker.
It sounds like it. But Cabangu, they'll be trying to sign Cabangu as well. So, and the next, as I said, the next week or so is huge, because St Mirren, who are right above them in that race for the top six. Then you've got an Edinburgh derby, and he gets the second taste of that. Good one. And then it'd be a brilliant game. And then Dundee in the Scottish Cup quarter-final. I think that's a Friday night game as well. So, listen, loads of good games and big games.
Yesterday was absolutely massive.
Huge.
Because psychologically, you jump up, the table, a number of positions. It gets you within touching distance of that top six. Whereas, had they, for example, just argument's sake, hypothetically lost the game, all of a sudden, you're sitting just a few points above the playoff spot, and it just the negativity starts coming out. And that's all on the back of what was a very good performance against Rangers, but a disappointing result. Yeah. So it was really important that they got that result to turn things around and start just to focus on the positives that they've built up this calendar year.
Yeah,
especially even with other results and all, when you think about it,
exactly.
Winning, Hibs winning, so all the other teams are thinking, right, well, we need a big result here. And he got it.
It was there's pressure on them going into that game for sure. Right, let's talk about some of the teams then that are in this race for European places, Michael. And Aberdeen, obviously now, putting points on the board again, which is exactly what they needed to do. And it helps again when you bring in someone in January and they score a goal that secures the points. And Ode Daba, bit of a nervy match against Kilmarnock. You feel as if it could have gone either way. But in the end, back-to-back league wins.
Ultimately, how quickly things can turn on the back of a result. Obviously, last week at Dens Park, it just starts to give a little bit more positivity. You back it up with that result at home against Kilmarnock. Very, very tight. It's obviously an injury time winner, but now, as you've just said, it's 2 for 2. Daba's getting his first goal for the club as well. and everything starts to look rosy again. It's incredible.
This was overturned. This was overturned.
Yeah, and
do we think it was the
rightly
right call?
So, it was, but you can understand why the referee gave it.
Yeah.
Initially as well, because I think we all, when you're watching it, it looks like you instinctively think that Donnelly's been caught by Tobers there, but he's not. So that's VAR. Let's give it credit. That's VAR working well, and the right decision was.
Thank God.
Yes, correct. was the final decision there.
And look, we've kept this Oakles goal in our edit just because he was a player I felt that needed a goal,
yes.
Alan. You've seen him in person, and okay, it's a great finish. Maybe, I know it's chopped off, but maybe that's a flavour of what is to come from him now he's getting up to speed.
Yeah, I think it was always going to take a little bit of time. It doesn't happen overnight. You need to settle in and get to know your teammates. And look, it's what I'd seen so far. I was like, he needs to do more. But you see there that he's a skillful player. He's obviously got talent. I mean, Gabba gets that win and goal in injury time. But I think that's a sign of what's to come, hopefully, for him and for Aberdeen. So we'll see what he's got in upcoming weeks. But yeah, it showed technical, that he can be a technical player as well.
We just talked about Hearts' schedule, Michael, and when you look at what Aberdeen have got ahead, clearly it's Celtic next midweek, right? Tomorrow it's Celtic, and then after that Dundee United in Premier Sports. Huge game. Yeah. These next couple of weeks are season defining for so many sides, I think, on whether they're going to end up where they want to be.
Yeah, they are, but for me, I think that these last two games against Dundee and then at home at Kilmarnock, what they've done is it changes that. I mean, could you imagine if it was now we're talking about 16 games without a win, and they're going into Celtic away?
Do you reckon he would have been in trouble if that happened?
Yeah.
It'd have to be.
I think so. But now all of a sudden, because that's not the case, that they've won the last two, all of a sudden you start looking at the Celtic game and look, it's a bit of a free hit, and then you're going to yourself, well, do you know what? Maybe. But if they don't, it's not panic street. You know what I mean? It's not panic stations.
No. Dundee United obviously needed a win as well, Alan. They got it the weekend. Sam Dolby has come up with some big goals for them. This is a great header that secures the points against Motherwell with Michael Vimmer in charge for the first time. But just as you watch on here, Alan, who for you is the favourite in the race for third, if you like, in that potentially crucial position?
It's a difficult one, that. I mean, I'm going to... He always gives me difficult ones. I'm going to go for Aberdeen, I think, at this moment in time. I like what Dundee United have done. I think Jim Goodman's done an excellent job. And when they play to like Dalby's strengths, they can be very good. Like you see their deliveries into the box, and they'll go and attack it. He's got really good numbers this year. But I just feel that Aberdeen have just got the edge. I think.
Is that with the January transfer window in mind, what they've added, Al?
Yeah, just in general, I just think they have done well in the window, and I just think they'll get stronger. I believe now that weight's been lifted off their shoulders of getting the win, and now it's back-to-back wins. I just think they've got a little bit more when it comes to just their team in general to kind of push them through the remaining fixtures.
Michael, we don't have that long time. We've got a lot to get through. Just give us a name. The race for third, if you like. Who is it going to be?
I would probably agree with Alan.
Okay, all right.
And gives that quick reason. No.
No time.
Listen, I can get that off him in a second because there's more talking to be done on that subject. I don't know how fast sort of news travels to Austria, Michael, when it comes to Scottish football. But I did notice last night on social media, then I saw the obviously statement coming out as well, that Kevin Holt is away. He's gone to Derry City. He's left Dundee United. He obviously wanted to go in the end. There was talk that he was going to make himself unavailable for selection, forcing the move through. But he's been a really important player for Dundee United, and that's a loss, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And it's on the back of, obviously, Liam Boyce going to Derry City as well. They're clearly trying to make a bit of a push over in Ireland.
Yeah, Irish football's on the up at the moment.
But it's surprising, regardless of the fact that, they're making a wee push. The land manager's obviously made a move to Derry City, and they're investing. But you're still saying to yourself, Dundee United are in an incredibly good position. It's a bizarre one. I don't really understand it, to be perfectly honest. But I mean, look, it is what it is. I think Jim Goodwin, as we've mentioned on a number of occasions, has recruited well, and they've got. I think that he'll feel that they've got enough till the end of the season, at least, to really mount a challenge for that third position.
Yeah,
I don't think they'll be able to do it though. But let's be honest, finishing in the top six for Dundee United this season would be regarded as a success.
That'd be huge. Absolutely coming back up to the top flight. What about the Hibs, Alan? The run that Hibs are on at the moment, it just goes on and on. An excellent performance from start to finish against
I leave
Celtic.
the country and
They
all
really
sorts
were.
of madness happens in the last week. It's just
Mikey, what a game. Honestly, it was
Mental.
brilliant.
What a game. Yeah.
It was. I'm glad it was on the TV because we got to go there and experience it. But no, just for the first whistle, when we
I'm
were
glad I
speaking
had to go to Paisley last week and then missed the game at Easter Road this week.
Is a belter, isn't
We
it?
can go away anytime we want, Al.
Because when David Gray spoke to us after the game, he was actually talking about how he'd said to his players that he thought maybe Celtic not would be off it, but with everything that went on during the week,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? The highs and the lows, and he wanted them just to get after them. And that's exactly what they done. For the first minute, they were up on them, they were aggressive, and unusual for Celtic. They were a little bit sloppy. I mean, just like this here, Trusty coming way out of position. I don't feel that he needs to get there. He can't get back in. And Hibs work it really well. And Josh Campbell takes it forward, puts it into the bottom corner, and it was just the whole game. They were just putting pressure on them. You know Celtic are going to throw everything at you at times, but they stood up to that, and that's the different side that I'm seeing for this team. The character, now that they've got where they might not have won this before, but I've just
They're
thought
taking their
all round was
chances as well,
excellent.
Alan. They're taking their chances, which they weren't doing.
Bowie
earlier
was
this
really
season.
good. See Bowie up against Trusty and Carter Vickers, big, powerful, strong, holding the ball up, a nuisance. And they all played off him. It was just a really good game of football to watch. I had a little bit of everything, some good goals. And Brendan Rodgers at half-time had seen enough.
He made the changes.
He made 3 changes. He brought on the big hitters and he tried to get back into it.
That's the moment of controversy, Alan.
Yeah, it is. It is. But look, it's one of them, isn't it? I think the referee, they've not got the cameras to see it really. This is your best option. And you're kind of guessing at it, I would say. That's my answer on it.
Listen, I'll give you a view.
So what would you? So what would you do, Alan? What would be your decision?
I'd have dropped it off.
You had a direct line to Alan Muir. Listen.
You can't see, Michael. You can't see it. Do you know what I mean?
I've had a few VAR rants, haven't I? I've had a few VAR rants, and if you remember what I've said all along is, if we're going to use VAR, we have to use it in a certain way because we don't have all the camera angles. I said from the start, this is a wee bit like VAR light we've got in Scotland. Have we got enough good officials to run VAR? I've always said, if we're not using it right, we should scrap it because there's too many moments of controversy. How on earth they can say definitively that ball's out? Bear in mind the goal was given in real time, Michael.
Yeah.
Honestly, I thought it was absolutely scandalous.
Do you know, I do. I tell you what was a lot more definitive was the fact that England didn't get their try that they were given as. That was never touched down.
That ball's never been grounded
on the ground. Never
is this a rugby
grounded.
programme or is it a football programme? Are we changing? Is it hybrid? What is it?
Do you know what I mean about VAR though, Michael?
Do you know what I mean? Pure officiating.
I mean, honestly.
Yes, I do. But look, see that decision. For me, if they had disallowed it to begin with, if the linesman had flagged it, same thing. I don't think you could overturn it. So whatever the decision was given by the officials, I think you had to stick with that because there wasn't enough to definitively say one way or the other. So if the linesman had flagged and said it was over the line and the goal was disallowed and VAR looks at it, then I think they have to stick with the decision and say we can't definitively say that it was in. But the fact that they gave the goal, I think you've got to stick with the goal. You've got to stick with it because
it was Hearts that were hard done by last week. I know we never get time to speak about the Hearts penalty that was denied, and then another panel's come out and said actually that they got it wrong in the day. Hearts penalty should have been given. There seems to be so many mistakes being owned up to, then apologies. And I think the clubs, we've seen St Mirren have said about it recently, Dundee United and others as well. It's just getting too much for me. It's every single week. There's some absolutely shocking decisions being made. We'll come back to it later in the show. Jordan Smith obviously didn't have a great moment when Celtic get back in the game. Michael, you've made your thoughts quite clear in the fact that Hibs need to improve. The goalkeeping.
By the way, he did great last week.
He did, and that's what I was about to say. Even at 1-0, he had a huge save in the game.
He did. But what I said to you was that when you're looking at the Hibs squad in its entirety, there are a number of positions that the players that are doing all right, but you know that you've got to recruit better. And all of this, for me, it really goes to highlight what an incredible job David Gray's doing. Because I don't think Hibs squad is anywhere near what it should be. But they are right in the hunt for third place.
Well, that was my next point, Michael. I'm actually amazed when I asked the question that you didn't go for Hibs for all you've said recently.
Well, and there's part of me that there's still a slight caveat, because the unbelievable run that they're on, the longest unbeaten run they've been, I think it was 7 years, it may well be more now. There's part of me that just thinks, can this team continue that? Because I'm not to be disrespectful to the squad, but I don't look at the squad and go, oh, yeah, that's their level. I think they're outperforming now. And that's
he's getting the best out of them.
David Gray.
Yes.
Massively.
Agreed.
Kieran Bowie coming back, as Alan was talking about, is a massive bonus, because he was missed. You saw when he first arrived that he had something. Him coming back into the team, and as Alan said, he was a real nuisance against Celtic. You can tell he is going to be a big player for them. So he definitely strengthens the team as a whole. But David Gray's doing an unbelievable job. He is maximising what they have got.
Yeah. And listen, on Celtic, I mean, obviously it was a poor 45 minutes and they were much, much better in the second half. If you're ever going to excuse them on a performance like that or 45 minutes like that, it's off the back of Munich, where, Alan, yes, I know you'd have been watching as well. They were phenomenal. That is one of the best Celtic away days I've seen in the Champions League, almost as long as I can remember.
Yeah. Well, you go to the Allianz and get a draw. I mean, it's fine margins, isn't it? I mean, you can look over both legs and pick holes in it. You think of the Harry Kane goal, the kind of free at the back post, like that could have been the difference. But taking nothing away from them, to go over there and put that performance in. And by the way, they had opportunities, if you remember, in the first half. They had two or three really good opportunities. Yeah. So I think they're just performing at such a high level, and it is consistent. They have been consistent with it. This is really the first time that I've seen them anyway, and I've thought, you know what, that's a real drop-off. And it was 45 minutes, because the second half, like I said, they threw everything at Hibs, but they've done well to stand up to it. But you can't excuse them 145 minutes off, to be fair.
I flew over to Munich last Tuesday, and I can tell you there was already quite a few Celtic fans on that flight who were well inebriated, and I'm pretty sure by the end of the 90 minutes, they were extremely proud of the performance as well.
Yeah.
Because, as you said, when was the last time that a Scottish team away from home against what? Let's not beat about the bush. They're a contender for the actual overall Champions League.
If you're talking Champions League terms, absolutely, yes. It's the best for a long time.
And they were toe to toe, and it wasn't backs against the wall stuff. No. They were opening them up and they were creating opportunities. And it just bitterly disappointing to obviously concede that goal in injury time. But it is what it is. And yes, you're right. You give them a little bit of leeway there when it's coming off the back of that.
But if they can build again in the summer, just like we've said with other teams, if they can add and not lose a key player like Nicholas Kuhn, who obviously much more interest seems to be coming his way now because of the performances and scoring the biggest occasions. But if they can keep the best players and add, then maybe they go again in the Champions League next season.
Well,
and
they will.
One better. Yeah,
they will.
Right. Yeah, go on, Al. Go on.
No, you go. I'm just saying, well, Tierney coming in. I mean, you've got Schlupp there that look at the standard he's playing to already. Do you know what I mean? Taylor comes off at half time, he goes on, and he just slots right in seamlessly. So I just think they will go again, and that's now their level to get there to the later stages of the Champions League.
Schlupp's a must sign, if you ask me, but also I just mean about keeping the top players, because there's always that interest, and you've seen players like O'Reilly and others leave in the last few years, and Kyogo more recently. And if you want to really kick on and give it a go with all of these Champions League guaranteed games, if they can get through the qualifier, then there's a lot more money coming their way to spend as well. Right, listen, we've got to get on. I will get to Rangers. I'll leave it till last. Let's briefly look at Ross County Dundee, which, if you look at the league table, Michael, that was a really significant game, a massive result, and fair play to Don Cowie and his men, because they keep on racking up the points. They're taking themselves so far away from that relegation battle. You'd imagine the end form like this will mean they're going to be quite comfortably safe.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, it gets beyond the debate about being safe to then, aspirations of breaking into the top six. I mean, that mid-table is so tight; it is incredible. Hence, why I was saying to Neil Critchley there about yesterday being so important for Hearts, because all the results, the way they were falling, if Hearts hadn't won the game, all of a sudden you're going like, yeah, there's still 6 or 7 games left, but it starts to be, a little bit more of a concern. Ross County, yes, safe, but also, just to start, because when you get into that position where you're thinking November, it was the last home win, you start to think to yourself, oh, well, that's a little bit of a slip away from what you expect. They get the victory. It's against the side that obviously is sitting in the playoff position at the moment. It broadens and makes the gap even bigger between them and Dundee, and they can look up.
And let's
have a quick
look at
the
that.
top six.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's have a look at the highlights then, because actually they had to come from behind. A great finish, great goal by Simon Murray, but the response, amazing, Alan.
I just can't wait to see Akel's right scissor kick. That's some goal into it.
You'd have been proud of that one.
Mine would have went straight over the bar. But I just think that they show great character, even when they're down. They work really hard. I mean, that is just an incredible finish from the corner, just to take that on the side. Great. And look, I think they've done really well. I'm more worried for Dundee, if I'm totally honest. I think the amount of goals that they concede, where they're sitting at this moment in time, confidence looks a little bit low.
This
and
goal,
Ross County just took advantage of it.
Where's the defence in this one?
But,
that's
Michael, how many times? Yeah, he was really good last week as well. But we've done a lot of their games, Dundee, and I just think, see, defensively at times they are open just like that, and it's not a good thing to be talking about the amount of goals you concede when you're down at that bottom of the league.
Start the second half, you're thinking, you need to just make sure you're not giving it away. And, there's so many of the defenders that were out injured that were coming back to getting fit. And now you're thinking, right, that's happened, but there's still, as Alan's talking about, conceding so many goals. And I just felt like, watching that game there, you see the goals that they're conceding. I go back to the Hearts game where, it's 6-0. And Tony Docherty says that was an anomaly.
Yeah.
The problem is that as much as that may well have been an anomaly up to that point, it looks and feels like it's had such a real psychological effect on them, backed up by the 6-0 at Celtic Park as well, that it feels like they're in free fall, and it becomes all the more difficult to actually put that to bed and turn things around.
Michael, do you know what though? It's the small things. It's the little details as well, like conceding from corners, like the Phillips, the first goal, Larkesh just switching off. He's playing at wing back. You need to get yourself back in. He's just not there. He just switches off. Phillips, bang, goal. It's just these little moments where when you're down there and you are conceding, you have to be fully concentrated on everything, and they just keep getting punished, and it's sometimes their own doing.
It's a concern, and it was only a few weeks ago we were saying how well they were playing. It can change so quickly. Right, Alan, let's get on to it because we're 43 minutes into the show.
I'll see you later.
I don't know. Listen, there's some positivity, I guess. I don't know how we've avoided it with you. But the big news.
What is it? What's happening?
I was going to talk about St Mirren.
Oh, right, okay.
Listen, we will talk about St Mirren briefly because we'll see the highlights. A fantastic win, Stephen Robinson beating Rangers again. But on Rangers, clearly the news of the day is that Barry Ferguson's back at the club until the end of the season, and he'll be, have a few people with him that you'll know very well, Alan. And
I know, that's funny. My phone wasn't ringing.
I was about to get there. I was wondering if you'd had a text, especially with Griegsy mentioned. Alan McGregor's in there as well. Billy Dodds, Neil McCann, in with Barry Ferguson, obviously, who's taken the reins fully on now.
Has he got the captain's armband as well?
He's got everything.
Probably.
Philip Clement, I mean, Al, I think we've said what we need to say. It was getting absolutely ridiculous at the end. So let's talk about the news today. Are you happy with the decision-making of this board at the moment to get guys like Barry Ferguson back into the football club?
Well, I think the plus side to that is, look, they know what it's all about. I mean, they've all played for the club. They've won trophies there. They know what it means to play for the football club and what it takes, that desire, that hunger to go and succeed. So look, I'm sure they'll bring all that. They'll try and turn the mentality around of the team, get the best out of them. I think for now, it's probably the best thing as short term. So if he goes in there and does really well, you talk about the 49ers and this takeover and everything that's going to come with. You would have thought if that does go through, they'll then look to who they want to appoint for the future, moving forward, moving the club forward. But in short term, I think it can be a good decision bringing them in because something needed to change. I mean, I liked Philip Clement, I did, but towards the end, it's really difficult to listen to his interviews, the excuses, everything that was going on, just own up to it. It just wasn't good enough, and it's not been good enough, and that's why ultimately he lost his job. But I do like it at the moment, so we'll see how it works.
And obviously from what Patrick Stewart had said just a few days ago, it sounded as if they were just wanting to try and get through a few more weeks, maybe a couple more months with Philip Clement in place until this takeover was completed, and then the next guys in, if you like, could have the final say in who they wanted to come in, and that would have been the end game for Philippe Clement. But he's forced their hand in many ways. That was the next home game after Queen's Park, and it was a shambolic performance, nowhere near good enough. It'll be interesting to see what the fans' reception is going to be to today's news, Alan, as well. As you say, when there's club stalwarts coming back, maybe they can get a positive response from the fans and some of the football players as well. They know what it takes. Guys like Barry Ferguson, are going to give absolutely everything they've got to the club. So there's no doubt about that. The money that's to come in, how excited are you by this potential takeover? The San Francisco 49ers franchise, their investment arm coming in, it is big news, but also it means you go into a different model of football club if this goes through, multi-club ownership. And it doesn't always work out well. So what's your balanced view on this news?
Yeah, I must admit, I was happy when I started to read into it and look at it, because I think at this moment in time, it's something that Rangers do need. I think they're so far behind in terms of financial backing, squad, just depth, everything. I just think that they're very much lacking, and it was going to take something like this to come in. But we'll have to wait and see ultimately how it works out with obviously the ownership model for Leeds and now here, and how it's all going to work and what part everybody's going to play. But look, I'm looking forward to it. I think it's definitely something that had to happen. So we'll see what happens in the coming months if it goes through. But yeah, I think it's exciting times for Rangers, but they need to get through this difficult period as well at this moment in time.
Yeah, and that's just it, Alan, because exciting times potentially ahead for the football club, and its potential. It looks very likely from everything I'm being told as well. It looked like it's a matter of time at the moment before that money comes in. They needed new investment. So when it comes, it'd be very hard to say no, or for some of those senior shareholders.
They need to spend it wisely, though.
They need to spend it wisely. That's it. The shareholders don't want to say no to that money, the ones that have got decent stakes in the football club, because it wasn't coming from anywhere else. But you're absolutely right. If they're gonna get that investment, it needs to be invested wisely, or else the malaise would continue for a while. And remember, if some of those players there right now aren't good enough, there's going to be a period of time before you can completely overhaul that squad anyway. And right ahead, Alan, for guys like Barry Ferguson anyway, in the meantime, short distance ahead is games like Fenerbahce and Jose Mourinho. And there's still potential to this season. So that's just an enormous tie now, isn't it?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, you think the Celtic have already won the trophy in the League Cup, they're out the Scottish Cup. I mean, they're out the league for me. I mean, that's gone. So all your eggs are in the one basket, and that's the European one. And look, they are club legends, and they are coming back, and I'm sure they'll get a bit of fight and spirit into all these players and try and get the best out of them. But ultimately as well, you need to win games. I mean, that's what you'll be there for, and that's what the fans will be looking at to see how this develops. But it's huge. I mean, it's going to be difficult. I mean, it's going to be really tough for them, especially going over there. But look, we've seen in Europe that they can up their game. They've probably played some of their best football in European nights, so they'll be looking to get back to that level. But look, it's not going to be easy.
Now, there's a lot of eyes, Michael. There's a lot of eyes on the players as well, isn't there?
Yeah.
Because that performance at the weekend, and you can say everything about Philippe Clement, he obviously was not getting the best out of them. But the heart of some of those players and the desire has been questioned. They turn up in some of the bigger days, Celtic recently, some of the European performances, but not against Queen's Park, not against St Mirren, some of the other domestic away days. With guys like Barry Ferguson, Neil McCann, and Billy Dodds and the rest going in there, you'll find out a lot about those players, won't you?
You'll not that they won't accept that, and it's not to say that Philippe Clement obviously accepted that, but you just feel that sometimes there's just the momentum is going in one direction and it becomes a juggernaut that you can't stop, and it certainly felt like that for Philippe Clement in terms of it was drifting and there was nothing he could do, and that performance, I think even more so than the result, just the performance, because St Mirren deserved to win. It wasn't as if it was a smash and grab. It wasn't as if it was against their own. But they deserved it. And by the way, as much as Philippe Clement wanted to present the narrative against Queen's Park that they had so many chances, done this and they'd done that, that was a predictable result as well. We were there. I thought Egeman was fortunate, having been given the red, that it was overturned.
It does look in the other angle we saw a moment ago, though, Michael, that the foot goes to ground first. There, you see it pop up again.
Yeah, by the way, I think that a yellow card is probably about right, but it's one of those where with the red having been shown, I think he's fortunate that it got rescinded in the game, because there's plenty of force in the challenge. I do think that yellow was probably about right, but having been given the red, I thought he was slightly fortunate. But I mean, look, it's by the by. It's a terrible
What
performance.
about this one?
A terrible result.
Because in Ciala, what I'd say here, Alan,
It's
is
bizarre.
Right. It looks from one of the angles like he's tripped himself up.
It must be clipped. There must be a clip.
He's not.
No, I'm not saying that he did. I'm saying there must have been something for him to go down.
But Michael, when you're running, unless you're looking over your shoulder necessarily and then twisting and turning, it's actually quite hard to trip yourself up. Now, all I'm going to say here is, for the same rant I had about VAR earlier on the pitch, that goal's disallowed. So VAR need to know 100% that he wasn't clipped. How can you possibly tell? There's only one guy, maybe two, that would know if he was clipped. That's Ciala.
I'm sorry, but guys, I've got to disagree with you here. I think the pictures are quite unequivocal.
But Michael, we don't have all the angles. There's two angles from a distance.
Michael, just think about it when you were playing.
You can't guarantee it.
Michael, think about when you were playing full speed. Just think, and you get the slightest of just brushes. I'm not saying that it was. I'm just saying when you were a player and you're going that quick that you click your own heels bang down. I know. You're not trying to tell me that he's tripped himself up. But when have you ever done that in your life when you were playing?
Listen to me. What you would see, regardless of the angle, is you would see a deviation of his leg or his foot movement.
You do. You do.
I don't think you do.
You actually slightly see it running the angles, but the point is his leg obviously all of a sudden clips his other leg, and the St Mirren player, his knee is right next to his leg just before that happens. All I'm saying, Michael, is I've had a go at VAR many times and the way we're using it in this country. To overturn something, you have to have definitive evidence. I'll say the same with the Celtic goal. The decision was disgraceful to say that ball was out of play. Obviously, this one not quite as bad. It could go either way. But I don't know how you can say with any degree of certainty or 100% that he wasn't clipped. This is not what VAR was there for. So if the referee thinks surely you have to stick with that call.
Do you know what? I hear what you're saying in regards to the on-field decision and it being overturned. But me looking at that incident, I don't see Mandaron having clipped Ciala.
No, it's very hard to see.
I take your point in regards to the decision, the on-field decision having been that there was a foul given. I think
I've just had enough of the guessing, and it seems to be happening just about every other week, Alan. And there must be managers, obviously Clement's gone now, but there must be managers who are just wondering what the heck they are going to get from the officials right now.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you don't, and even when I was listening to Brendan Rodgers talk about that incident in that game, like he's basically saying you're guessing, and that's kind of what you are doing. Yeah. In terms of the clip, is there that clip there we just seen? Is there a lot in it? No, absolutely not. But I still do believe when you're running at any sort of speed and there's just minimal contact, it's enough to clip your legs. So, it's not easy. I'm sure it's not easy being a ref, but there's something every week. We're talking about these situations all the time.
It's exactly my point. And in the end, you've got to be certain to make calls like that. Anyway, listen, the guys at McBookie have sent me updated odds, okay, on the next Rangers manager. And when I say next, not quite next, because obviously Barry Ferguson's there. And I think if he stays for more than 10 games, in terms of the betting, that is the next Rangers manager. So there's new odds that have come out on Rangers manager on the first league game of 2025-26, right? And I'm looking, Steven Gerrard is 4-1. And he's leading the way there, Al. And then there's Derek McInnes and Sean Dyche, and Barry Ferguson's listed at 9s, and Russell Martin at 10s. And Russell Martin obviously has done a fine job on a few other clubs, and it's total football, but often with mistakes defensively, as you know. And whether the Rangers fans would accept that early going into a European run, who knows? However, he's up there. Kevin Thompson's listed at 14. A number of other names, Rafa Benitez, 14-1 as well. But Steven Gerrard, 4-1, favourite. What would you like to see? And do you think that is a realistic option for next season for Rangers?
Well, he's out of work, isn't he? So that's the kind of short answer. But I don't know. Going back, is it going to be the right thing if that was the case? I mean, he done well when he was here last time. So
you heard Scott Arfield a few weeks ago, remember, when he was on singing his praises. I mean, just honestly, would you want him back? Do you think it would work second time round?
I hope so. Yeah, I don't see why not. I think it could work.
Of all of those names, because Sean Dyche, so experienced as well, of all of those names, would Stephen be the guy you'd go to? Oh, no.
Yeah, I think so. Well, I think there's some good names in there. There is. I mean, the Russell Martin one, I know how he likes to play football. Could that be a thing? I don't know. It's hard It's hard, but Gerrard knows what it's all about. He's won the league. He's been there.
The most important thing for Rangers is getting that 49ers investment arm takeover, because that is what will give them the foundations to genuinely go and compete. You could bring Steven Gerrard back as much as you want, but if you are trying to build on a decreasing decreasing budget within the squad, it is very, very difficult. So with the 49ers investment arm coming in, that's the most important thing, that they get that on point, and everything else that goes with that behind the scenes.
Recruitment.
Then you can get the figurehead to come in.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of those other
It's
names
such a big
would be
moment.
brought. I don't think a lot of those other names would be brought in if the 49ers investment arm coming in. They'd be looking for a headliner.
I should have had a caveat there. You've got to assume that the money would come in to get someone like that back. Alan, final comment for you then?
On Rangers. Well, something needs to change. Like, it is what it is. I think
you just said it's a big moment. I think that's
huge. But no, why? It is a huge moment, because depending on what they get, who they bring in, recruitment. I don't think recruitment's been great. So you've got an opportunity here to give a new manager funds to build a team squad to try and compete. It's who's making those decisions, who's bringing those players in, because it's not been good enough up to now. And you've got an opportunity to try and bridge that gap. Look, it's not going to happen overnight, but there possibly is an opportunity there with funds coming in. You have to make the right decisions and get them right on the money, because if you don't, you're back to square one.
Yeah, no, spot on. Right, Michael, you said earlier on in the show that you flew to Munich last Tuesday and you were with some of those Celtic fans that had a couple. Just before we go, have you enjoyed your day?
I've had a great day on the slopes, Darryl.
Very flushed. Very flushed.
Golden brown.
It can't just be the sun, Alan. I'm sure there's a few drinks on that table right in front of him, and if they've not already been started to be consumed, sure, I'm feeling there might be a... Oh, look at that!
Oh, it's an empty one. It's an empty one.
That was not what he showed. Someone's obviously cleared that table, Al, because that's not what I saw earlier on in those photos. Right, anyway.
Fair play. Enjoy yourself.
You've got to enjoy yourself. Excellent.
Can I just finish off with Charlie Mulgrew messaged me earlier on, and he's getting up to speed. He was on the dry ski slope at Bears Den today.
Oh, I was once upon a time. I was on that once upon a time.
I just can't imagine him being a skier.
Oh, no, did he look like it in the video either?
Right, listen, we're almost at the point. We're out of time. Michael, enjoy the rest of your break. Alan, thank you very much. And thanks again to Neil Critchley for joining us tonight. We're back next Monday on the Social Club. We'll see you then.
The Scottish Football Social Club is brought to you by McBookie.com. Take a lookie at McBookie today.